Hey, good morning and welcome back to the Higher Grounds Podcast Morning Minute Meditation. This is Brother Josh Montgomery of the Safe Harbor Baptist Church in Salisbury, North Carolina, and I appreciate you tuning in this morning. We've been sharing a series of thoughts out of Romans chapter number 5 entitled, Therefore, Being Justified by Faith. The Lord being our helper will conclude the series of thoughts this morning. We said in verse number 1, because we have been justified by faith, we have sweet peace. In verse number 2, we have a saintly privilege. In verse 3 and 4, we have a spiritual perspective. And then in verse number 5, we have a seen passion. But in closing this morning, we find in verse 6, 7, and 8, because we have been justified by faith, we have a sure pardon. Look at the text, please. Verse 6, For when we were without strength in due time, Christ died for the ungodly. For scarcely for a righteous man will one die, yet peradventure for a good man some would even dare to die. But God commendeth his love toward us, and that while we were yet sinners, Christ died for us. I notice three thoughts in these three verses in conclusion this morning of this thought. First of all, I note our condition in verse 6. For when we were without strength in due time. The word, for little phrase, without strength, means and gives the idea that we could not save ourselves. We were hopelessly lost. I note our condition, but then I note in verse 7 our condemnation. For scarcely for a righteous man will one die, yet peradventure for a good man some would even dare to die. The word scarcely here means rarely or barely. So for a righteous man, some would rarely or barely die. Well, that leaves us out because we were ungodly. And the word peradventure means perhaps some would even dare to die for a good man. That leaves us out again because we're ungodly, so we are condemned. But notice the consolation of verse 8. But God, there's an interruption, commendeth his love toward us. That's the investment. In that while we were yet sinners, that's the identity. Christ died for us. That's the intervention. You know why I have a sure pardon? Because I have been justified, not by works, but I have been justified by faith. Since I have been justified by faith, it should affect my walk, my words, my ways, my will, and my worship. I'm glad I have been justified by faith, and I hope you've been justified by faith, and you rejoice in these truths of Romans 5. From the Higher Grounds Podcast family, have a great day. God bless you.